Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Velocity webinar as we explore the topic of turning uncertainty into opportunity, changing the strategic plan post-election. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our keynote presentation today. We're going to be handing the reins over to Joe Raymond, who's the Chief Strategy Officer for Velocity. He'll be joined a little bit later in today's broadcast by Kurt Wells, who's the Chief Operations Officer, also with Velocity. So, Joe, at this time, I'd like to welcome you to the stage and kick things off as well.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hopefully you'll find this information beneficial. Most of all, get some good food for thought. As we all know that we've had a very interesting election, to say the least, and it really gives us a point of thought on what could have been one way or the other in the election. It seemed like we had two very distinctly different candidates, and we had a media that was driving a lot of uncertainty as to what was going to happen, a lot of animosity, and what created what seemed to be a lot of anxiety. What we're going to talk about is that this uncertainty is a constant. You know, the only thing we can think about is what's here and now today, and then we can look into the future. So much like crafting a strategic plan for tomorrow, we will have these constant ebbs and flows, and I'll be talking to you about them as we go on. But the one thing, no matter whether we've had good times or bad times, we as entrepreneurs have always found a way to make it through the process. So today we're going to go over a bunch of different things. The first thing and most important thing is really understanding economic indicators that creates that uncertainty. It's not always just driven by an election, but major events as they occur. We'll talk about the different topics that we mentioned in our invitation that talk specifically about key areas and directions and how to guide yourself through those areas. We'll go into summary at the end, and then we'll talk about some of the Q&A questions that you may have as we go on. So please, as Matt talked about, please put your questions down, and we'll get to them as we get through the presentation. So what's our purpose today? Number one is to recognize these fluctuations in the economy, and how do we deal with them? What do we do with them? But more importantly, we have to understand how these fluctuations impact our clients' goals and really our prospects' goals and their performance. Because why do we need to know that? Because in order for us to be effective in dealing with our clients, we have to understand what are their pain points and inherent concerns. Here's a little slide we saw, a cartoonish slide, but it really reflects how some of us felt probably pre-election, how some of us might have felt if we've had businesses back through some recessionary times where, you know, the jobs, the hours, the productivity, GDP is just this bunch of dominoes that are eventually going to just fall on top of us. But for others, we have a plan. It's like riding the bike towards the goal. It's a clear path. But the reality is that there really isn't a clear path in business. There's constantly these ebbs and flows through the economy. And these are the things that we have to be able to react to. One of the things that I want to talk to that best describes this, I know this is a busy graph, but the most important thing is if you look at this blue line here, this blue line represents gross domestic product, okay, and that's what's produced from products and services during the year. And you see that there's ebbs and flows in here. The line I also want you to look at is the temporary help employment line. If you notice, this line flows up and down with the GDP. The other thing I want you to know, because it's important to understand, is that every 7 to 10 years, we have some type of downturn in the GDP, which obviously leads to downturn in temporary employment. And obviously we know as the economy turns, the first people to go are the temporaries. The second, they start carving into some of their own workforce, eventually getting to where they think is a manageable level where they can maintain productivity and performance until the economy turns around. One of the things I want you to notice, though, as we kind of separate these slides, if you look at the GDP here, you can see how much it correlates with temporary employment, upswings, and downticks. If you look over here in the year of 2008, 2007, when we had our Great Recession, look at the temporary health unemployment getting the lowest levels in probably ever recorded, and then we look at the GDP line. So why is that important to understand those fluctuations and change? Because it all becomes down to supply and demand. It's all about our ability to adjust to these fluctuations and understand as a business how we adjust to them. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the key essentials for accelerating growth while we navigate through these economic cycles. The first is, obviously, we need to have a strategic plan. This is something I'm surprised as I go out and talk to a lot of companies is that they have really not gone ahead and developed a strategic plan. For a lot of you that have developed that strategic plan, one of the next things is making sure that you have people that are smarter than you to execute the plan. The tendency for a lot of entrepreneurs is to surround them people that are yes people. Those are people that will, listen to what they said. For me, it's always been about hiring people better than me. I want them to challenge me. I want them to constantly help us grow. We cannot grow a company on our own unless we expand and have good people to make that happen. So we have the strategic plan. One of the big things that we don't do, we don't monitor the performance of that plan regularly. This means whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, it's not only important that we monitor the performance of the plan, but we have to make necessary adjustments quickly based upon what the performance trends are showing us. Sometimes we're so slow to make the changes that it dramatically impacts our business. And the last thing on key essentials is making sure that we have that high-performing and adaptable company so that we can change to the different needs from a supply and demand situation. So one of the things that we talk about is consultative sales, which is one of the key components that help us drive through good times or bad. So if the economy is good or bad, you always have to sell to the need of the client. So when you think of your clients out there, when the economy is bad, what are they looking for? They're looking for to do more with less. They need to increase that performance, but they can't increase that cost. They still need to meet their deadlines. They still need to show profits, even if the economy is bad. So what do we do as staffing companies to help them address that? How can we give them better performing people? How can we help them meet their deadlines? How can we increase the performance of those people? One of the things that also amazes me as we looked at that graph before is that it shows this constant, when we drop and lay off temporaries, a lot of us go into this cocoon. And what we do is we really don't look to grow the business. Think about most of our businesses out there. We are such a small fraction of what the market is out there. There is tons of business and opportunity, even with a downturn in the economy. So what do we need to do when it's a downturn? We need to bring more sales. We need to go out there and take advantage from all those vulnerable clients out there or companies out there where clients are looking for solutions, they're looking for answers, and they're not getting it from their suppliers. It is a great opportunity for you to take advantage of it. And just as it goes from that side, it's the other side. They've got business booming. They need more people. They need productivity. They still need to make their profitability objectives. They still need to manage costs. We need to go in there with solutions. So from a consultative sales position, we need to be thinking about them. It's not about us. So many times I see salespeople go into the marketplace and they talk about how great our service is and how great our quality is, and they say that, what's your differentiator? And the salesperson says, it's me. Probably the worst thing you can ever do. And that's what we call being very transactional. And a lot of times that leads to just pricing concessions instead of creating a differentiator, creating a value, and creating that value allows you to increase margins. So one thing to remember when you have these consultative salespeople, depending on market conditions, the most important thing to do is what you ask. It's not what you say, but it's what you ask. And it's simple. Following these 5 statements that are here is a great start. How should you open? How should your salesperson open? And it's simple. What are your clients' top 3 initiatives? You need to understand what's the company's initiatives, whether it's a good market or a down market. What are the potential roadblocks that we see to helping us achieve those initiatives that we have there? and then drive down into the area that you can happen. What impact will labor have on them? Well, just as we talked about before, if they don't have the labor, they can't get the job done. If they have the labor and the labor's not performing up to standards, they can't get it done. And this doesn't matter across the different staffing spectrums. If you're a healthcare company, if you're an IT company, if you're clerical, light industrial, it doesn't matter. It all is about their outcomes. And then once we've identified what impact labor is, we look at solutions to remove those roadblocks. If you want to be a true value add, by creating that solution and removing those roadblocks will set you in a different perspective. You will be looked at as a strategic partner. So the last question, what is the expected results will my clients see from my solutions? And from an internal basis, we look at it and say, well, if we meet 100% of headcount, if we lower our time to fills, if we can reduce the attrition rate of the people I put to work there, if I can improve the performance of the people I put there, how is that going to help? Well, that's going to help them meet their production or project completion dates. It's going to help them meet their performance objectives. It's going to help them lower labor costs. It's going to improve the quality of the outcomes that they're looking for. And those are the things that are crucial that we need to understand about them. And the last thing at the bottom, which is the most important, is how we communicate these results back to the client. The worst thing you can do, first of all, you need to have periodic reviews with the clients. The worst thing you can do is walk in there and say, how am I doing? The first thing you need to walk in there is tell them how they're doing based upon what their expected results were, how we performed against it, why we did good or bad, and what are the recommendations improvement. It takes away that pain from them thinking about the last thing you did, the last bad placement. They look at the situation as the whole. And they look at you as a truly strategic value partner that can help you get through these ups and downs in the economy. So one of the things that's important is understanding who are the buying influences that you deal with. Okay, who are those people? If we look at, from a consultative sales position continuing, we obviously have a decision maker, and let's talk high level, a CEO, an owner. You know, the CEO and owner, their inherent concerns and their buying motives are completely different from, let's say, an HR person or a procurement person. So where a CEO is looking at P&L and really the strategy and global decisions, an administrative manager, which we call here, which is the HR person or procurement person, they're all about satisfying this user. This is the person, the supervisor, that utilizes these people, and their primary objective is productivity and quality of individuals to meet the production and quality objectives of whatever project they're working on. So from an HR perspective and procurement, you'll hear them talk about, I got to meet the headcount requirements. I got to get the quality of people, because that's echoing the sentiments of this user. Whereas a link manager or VP of operations, a department head, their big concerns are meeting budgetary objectives and productivity. So it's important that you understand these inherent concerns and you address these buying motives of the individuals. So one thing to know, until all buying influences are 100% committed to using you, the account is always vulnerable to outsiders. And then we have this thing up here called the coach. It's important. A coach within an organization could be a VP of sales. It could be someone that has, you know, the biggest thing, and I always use a VP of sales as a discussion point, because the VP of sales, if their product isn't getting delivered on time, if their product's not getting delivered and the quality isn't good enough, what's the end result? The end result is that they're going to look bad, their commissions are going to suffer, their client's not going to be happy, and so it's important that that gets done. That's a perfect coach if there's challenges within an organization to use to get to these different people. So the combination of asking the right questions, understanding the buying influences, critical concerns, and inherent concerns will drive you to find the right solutions and form a better relationship. So as I mentioned before, this is all about managing the supply and demand fluctuation. You either have too many people, not enough jobs, or we've got too many jobs and not enough people. Managing the supply and demand fluctuation You have to change that strategy depending on what's going on. So what are some basic principles? You have to manage the expectations of your candidates, the employees, and the clients. From a client perspective, making sure that you're understanding what their productivity, quality, cost, and profitability expectations are. From your candidates, your employees, what are their primary concerns? It's usually related around pay, benefits, career path, the type of environment you put them in. So we need to understand and manage to those expectations. And then we have to educate our candidates, our employees, our clients. Specifically, what is the market bearing from a pay perspective? How long does it take to get jobs? What can I expect to have to pay for this project? How long before I will get these people to be able to do the job the way we need to be doing? So it's all a matter of making sure that we educate and then providing them solutions for their critical concerns. So whether it's a candidate, an employee, or a client, it's important because when you think about it, it's all about retention is the key to your growth. Some companies don't focus on retention of their clients or don't know how to keep clients on board. If you address the above of what we've talked about so far, then you will absolutely retain clients and retain employees. So one of the things that we want to talk about is recruitment, consultative recruitment. One of the things to understand is it's not only the sales team or yourself that is going to drive value to the client. So many times nowadays I hear these recruiting teams that are more sourcing recruiters as they are what I'll call a full desk recruiter or a consultative recruiter. They are crucial to the sales component and they are crucial to the growth of the company. They are crucial to retention. They have to effectively manage that candidate database. They have to sell them on the company, so they have to be engaging and understanding of what our company is and what they do and what is the benefit of these candidates working for a company that's in the best interest of what they're looking for. And then managing and retaining good employees. It's all about, like I said before, you've got to meet the basic needs. You have to meet what they are, pay, whether it's pay, benefits. You know, career path could be, where do I go to earn $1 more? You know, where's my next growth path? Especially today with millennials, they're looking for that next thing. How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them excited about working for it? And recruiters have to remember, they are experts on these people. They work with them day in, day out. It's not the user on the other side, the company hiring manager, that's the expert. We deal with multiple people on every day. We know what they're looking for. We need to make sure we educate our client on that. So we have to manage our clients to performance, relationship, and retention. We've got to tell them what they need to pay in the market. We've got to tell them what they have to do in order to get quality people. We have to know them, let them know what is the hiring process is going to get the best results for them. And the last thing is growing the business by effectively selling the candidates, the employees, and the client opportunities. So many times recruiters say, well, I'm not really a salesperson. They could be the most effective person. They are selling candidates constantly and they're selling temps. It's the same with clients. The recruiters are by far one of our most crucial assets within the organization. They can help us grow our business. They can take care of retention of both our clients and retention of our staff. One of the things that we need to talk about is cash flow for growth. No matter how good your sales team is, no matter how good your recruiting team is, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the money to pay for it, you aren't going to grow. One of the big things, too, I see is cash flow from operations. Some people run their business on a credit card. Some people run their business just with a checkbook. And a lot of people, if I asked you the question on the call, do you know if you're cash flow positive from operations, how many people would have that answer? It is so crucial to understand that. It's so crucial to have that information. So what are some of the things that are included in this cash flow that will help you to understand what you need in terms of growth and what you could do from growth from a cash basis? Understanding capital expenditures that are required. Say you're looking for new space or new systems. You know, what is it going to take for us to pay for that? But more importantly, what is the ROI for getting that done? You know, what is my return on investment? How quickly can I get the return on investment? So many people put systems in place and don't ever get its full efficiency gains and therefore never get to that utilization number or that cost savings. The second thing is the team expansion and ROI. So many times we hire people, but we don't manage them to performance. By not managing these people to performance, we never get to where we need to be with these people. So what's our result? We got to hire more of them. Instead of managing, monitoring, hold them accountable to performance, and then get rid of people that aren't performing and upgrading talent, we hold on to these people too long. And then the most important thing, which is performance bonuses. Whatever the key performance metrics are, key performance indicators that you're going to use to run your business, you must incentivize your employees for hitting those goals. And the reason you want to do it for something that's tangible that affects them every day. So every day they walk into work, they're doing something that's going to drive towards the ultimate goal of the office and the company overall by the things that they do every day. When do we need to use outside capital to meet these cash deficiencies? If we look at all the things above, we will understand what cash we can generate from the cash flow being generated from the business and what is the cash flow we will need outside to make that happen. Then we can make that determination of what additional funds we will need to support those initiatives. And it's important. One of the things that I always do too is in talking about cash flow, a lot of people, well, how much cash should I have in reserves? As a starting point, you should always look for having, on the smaller side of companies, to have at least 3 months of operating expenses in reserves. That includes your payroll and your cost of doing business. So if you have a hiccup in the business, you at least have 3 months to make adjustments and put things in place to make changes to what that needs to be. And then one thing I want to show you quickly is a cash dashboard. This simple document can help you significantly and manage your business and make good business decisions. I don't know how anybody can make good business decisions without having good information, especially a cash dashboard. In this, simply, you got an opening cash balance. You got what money was collected, what were the disbursements, what's ending cash balance. Then you should have a forecast projected out for a 13-week period, and you can go out past that. That way you can always look at what is that cash balance that you have on hand and what does it look like over a period of time so you can see if you're going to have any cash deficiencies. It also helps you if you want to do additional expenditures, you can make it happen. Down below, there's normally the disbursements and the receipts that came in. You can look at quick flash at your AP, your AR. Is it growing? Is it depleting? You know, my payroll, is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Is that having an impact on my cash dashboard? You could spend 5 minutes a week on reviewing this report, and that will help you dramatically with going forward with your business. Another really, really important, and it's probably the dreaded word, you know, that necessary evil of compliance and how bad compliance is, and I hate dealing with it. We have to stay into regulatory compliance. Well, one of the things I want to make you well aware of is the process and systems compliance. This is a big, big component. And a lot of times we don't think about this. You know, the most important thing for scalability and growth and adaptability within your organization is making sure that you have the standardization and documentation of your processes and systems. You need to understand what's your workflow process, what's the quality control points to check, are these things being done? So you look at your client development process from when you prospect to when you onboard them, to when you manage them, to when you end the relationship or you're looking to renew the relationship. You need to understand what that flow looks like, who's responsible for what, and how do you hold people accountable, and that's through creating quality control points. This also, by having this documentation, allows you to develop effective training tools for people as you bring them on. This is one of the most crucial aspects of growing your business, which no one really thinks of as a compliance component. The next one, the risk compliance, obviously I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. You know that. It's workers' comp. It's this new salary exempt law. It's ACA. It's other regulatory things that come up relative to risks that you need to manage. And when you look at risk, there's always 3 areas. The prevention, how do I stop it from happening by having the right documentation and things? How do I manage any claims that come out of it? And this is the big one. How do I close out those claims? because you don't want to have continued tail exposure that could come to bite you in the back for not taking care of it and closing it down. Then we have our employee compliance, wrongful termination, discrimination, harassment. By having your standardization of processes and having a protocol that your entire staff abides by and follows will reduce these significantly. Or if they occur, because we know in today's society we're a big litigious society, by controlling it, you will have positive outcomes here. And then the last thing, so many times I'm shocked, a lot of companies don't have client contracts spelling out their responsibilities, your responsibilities. With vendor relations, what's the expectation? What can you expect from us? What do I expect from you? And then employee contracts might be simple as a non-solicitation. Might be the employee handbook that they sign off on, that they understand and will abide the policies and procedures of our company. These are simple things to indoctrinate into a company. It's simple to make it a habit for your staff, and it will help you guys significantly be able to scale your business effectively. And then the last portion of it, probably the most important, is good reporting. And as I said before, you can't make good business decisions without having good information. And one of the things we see all the time, well, how'd you make that decision? Gut. Well, I would rather have a gut decision with good informed information and have a double feeling that I'm making the right decision than not to have it at all. And when we talk about reporting, it's not just financial reporting, it's operational reporting. And I'll talk to that in a minute. But what is the first thing? It's understanding what are those key performance indicators. Things like revenue growth, gross profit growth, SG&A cost control, client profitability. How many times do we do an assessment on whether we're actually making money off of our clients? Sometimes we're losing money, but we have this great volume and you're losing a ton of money. Why keep a client? It's a lot of work on your staff, and if you're not making enough money on it, it doesn't make sense to keep it. But it also gives you a way to go back and negotiate with the client. If you have customer service reviews, if you have good information, you can go back to the client and can support your initiatives to get more in terms of that. Top 20 prospects and clients. How many times, when you talk about prospects and clients, it's activity, it's progression, it's the closes, it's the profitability, it's the retention, it's the outcome. If you manage your top 20 prospects and clients, you will consistently grow your business in a very positive manner. And then performance against expected client outcomes. And we talked about this earlier. So many people talk about these expectations, but so many people don't deal with it. Okay, so when we look at this stuff, uncertainty to opportunity, yes, this election has created more anxiety, but as we showed before, this uncertainty happens. This fluctuation happens. No matter what the dramatic event is, we could see a downturn in our product and services, our GDP. But as long as we adapt our business, there's always business out there for us to capture. If we understand how to deal with our clients and solve their problems, whether it's a good economy or a bad economy, we can have positive outcomes. So when we see elections, when we see, the unfortunate things of terrorist attacks, if we see these instantaneous knee-jerk reactions, as long as we understand how we're going to adjust our business, if our team, our salespeople, and recruiters understand how to adjust our conversations with the clients, these are not major tweaks in the way you look at business or the way you conduct business. By being able to get that done, you will take that uncertainty and you will turn that into opportunity. So, just leaving closing comments. Prepare to react to market changes, not competitor changes. And I always look at that, herd of cattle going over the side of the cliff. Okay, one goes, they all go. You don't need to look at what your competitors. Yes, always keep an eye on them. Are they doing something different? Understand what your clients are doing and how they're reacting to market changes, and how does your product and service line help them solve challenges and meet the goals that they need to during that time. And stay flexible. Learn from your clients. Why do temporaries get turned away? Why do they cut deeper into permanent staff? Why do we hire so many people? Because the economy's good and the money's flowing. The reality is, manage, stay flexible. Manage the metrics. Only keep people that are performing. Okay? Make sure you're performing You're a high-performance office. You're getting rid of people that are not effective quickly. You're bringing on people that understand their message, understand the accountability, and drive towards it. And remember, your clients are first. If you can't solve their problems, you're not going to get their business. And you want to be a strategic partner with that client. Remember, your employees first. If you don't deal with their basic needs, so many times we say, okay, well, you take $2 off to take this job. It should be the other way around. Educate your clients. If you want good people, this is what good people get. Why do you want good people? Because you're going to turn over 2 or 3 people, lose productivity, lose quality, instead of paying a few dollars more. A few dollars more can make a significant impact. Help your employees understand they burn out. Give them other job opportunities. Move them. Let the client know that if they're not performing, it doesn't mean that they're bad employees after they've been performing so well. It could be just a drop. They're burnt out. Change them up. Understand how your employees are working, how they're feeling. You want to maintain that workforce. It will tremendously improve retention. And be different. Don't follow everybody else. Be different. Create your value differentiator in the market. Be a strategic, valuable resource to your clients. Be a strategic, valuable resource to your temporaries that work in the field. And motivate and drive your employees for performance and reward heavily for what they do. And let them be the catalyst that drive your business. And you will grow your business. You will be able to manage through uncertain times. You will be able to manage through economy. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening through the presentation. Hope it wasn't too fast, but you have our numbers and our contact information if you want to follow up with us afterwards. Right now we have it open for if there's anyone that has questions.
I do. Actually, a couple questions came in, and so I wanted to just follow up and kind of build on some of the reporting pieces that you talked about. What are some of the key KPIs to really look at when it comes to the financial and operations reporting? Can you elaborate on that? Somebody had asked that.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about some of those. Revenue growth I look at it as probably one of those minor things. In our business, it's all about gross profit growth and our percentage of gross profit. That is a key indicator that we look at. And then from a financial perspective, we always look at EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. We always look at that, because that's the operating income of your business. How are we doing? Are we making money? Then there are reports such as your top prospect reports. So when you have top prospects, these are absolutely things that you want to look at. And these are key performance indicators. Is your top 20 prospect list moving over to becoming clients? Is the activity your salespeople doing, number of cold calls, number of appointments, number of presentations, number of contracts signed, number of starts, is that progressing at a pace that fits within your sales cycle? Same with your clients. Are we growing our clients? Do we have client profitability? Looking at each of your clients' profitability. Are we profitable in terms of the amount of recruiting resources, the sales resources, the support resources, the payroll and the margin? Are we making money off of our clients? So managing pipeline reports. Even looking at your candidate pipeline report. Do I have enough supply of people to meet my projected needs? Do I have consistently, I always look retention, big one. Am I retaining most of my employees? Another thing, referrals. Referrals, another big indicator. Think about how much it costs us to obtain a temporary by advertising, back-end searching. If we lose them, it's significant. When we got good temporary employees, we want to retain those good temporary employees. We want to make sure that they're referring good people to us because they have that tendency. Another big piece. And then client performance reviews. This is not necessarily our internal client performance eval, but how are we doing at meeting the expectations of the clients? And the expectations of the clients could have, like I talked about, our time to fills, our meeting 100% of headcount, our attrition rate with that client or retention rate, the performance of our people, and how they did in meeting the performance objectives of that client. So those are just a couple of the key KPIs we should be looking at.
And just to reinforce that, it's just really creating those goals and standards and constantly managing those and measuring against those on a frequent basis. So I have another question, actually, that somebody had asked. How do I develop and coach good recruiters into high-performing and consultative recruiters? And the same thing goes for the salespeople. How do I coach and develop good sales folks into those high-performing, consultative salespeople?
Okay, we were talking about understanding the inherent concerns and needs of the client. It's a matter of talking to them about the principle. First, have them understand that, especially recruiters, that they are salespeople and every day they sell. Every day they're selling a temporary on taking a job. They're selling a candidate on coming to work for us and taking a job. They're constantly doing that. So they have these inherent sales skills, but really it's changing the dynamic of what they think. They need to understand, so it's talking to them about the impact of what you do and how that impacts the client. It's amazing how the light bulb goes off for salespeople and recruiters when they understand the value of what we're delivering to the client. For so many years early on when I had my first staffing business, the biggest challenge was I didn't see the value. I'd go to HR and I'd go to procurement and they beat me up and they hated dealing with me and they killed me on price. And then once I realized that that's not really my target audience. My target audience is those hiring managers that use my people. It's the VP of operations that runs that overall project or department and how my people impact him meeting his budget and performance goals. It's how my people help the company and the CEO meet their profitability and growth objectives. When I get to understand that, I understand how to ask the right questions. So once you get them to understand the impact that we do, that we provide, and what it means to the client, it makes it a lot easier. Then you teach them the right questions to ask. And based upon those responses, how do you respond effectively to those questions? And by doing that, you can significantly change the dynamics of your team. And then accountability. How many of your recruiters know the metrics of what they're performing at? Okay, how many fills per month they get? How many people are retained that they've placed out there in the workforce? How are they growing the business? And then obviously change your incentive plans. Incentivize them on the number of people they place. Incentivize them on increasing the margins of people. Incentivize them on retaining people longer term. Incentivize them on working with the existing database to get them working and getting them raises in the marketplace. Incentivize your salespeople on selling to all buying influences and expanding the relationship and increasing margins, not top line, but actual margins. So these are the things that you do. So it's just a matter of changing the dialogue that you have with your salespeople and your recruiters to implement this type of thought process.
Fantastic, Joe. And then what are some of the best practices? Kind of elaborate a little bit more on the, how to manage client expectations. What are some of the best practices you've seen out in your career?
The biggest thing is we're always afraid to ask our clients questions. You'd be amazed at it's probably easier to get in front of a CEO than it is to get in front of an HR person, and yet the CEO is so much more valuable. It's a matter of talking in language that they understand, and that is profitability. When we talked about those questions, what are your initiatives as an organization this year? What do you see as those major roadblocks that are going to hinder your ability to make it happen? And then after that, what are solutions that I can provide that will help you overcome those roadblocks and help you meet the initiatives of your company? And then I'm going to report back to you on how I did in helping you get there. And this is what I need. So it's establishing that communication, understanding what your solution is going to deliver to them, and then report back to them, whether it's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, the impact your company had. And your impact could have been you were able to get them 10 people to do a project. They were pre-trained and production ready, and they performed at such a high level that it helped them get their project done in time, under budget, and it helped them grow their business. That's the dialogue you want to have. Specific expectations with specific results. And if you didn't meet the results, okay, because we're not perfect. We're not going to meet it. But you have solutions on recommendations on how you're going to improve it and make that relationship better.
Great. And then our last question is what are some of the best ways to educate employees, candidates, and clients, certainly in this uncertain market and as we move forward?
One of the biggest things is truly show that you care and you're concerned. Also, you have to inform them. whether it's newsletters or emails about what's going on, whether it's holding things like we're doing today, webinars about your business or about different things that are going on, bringing them in and recognizing them. You know, a lot of times I love bringing employees in, even at client sites, and forming internal quality teams and asking them about, tell us about your work experience. Tell us about things that we can improve to make it better. Tell me what you see at our client site that you can improve or make better. And bring them in, have them in for lunch, have them in for dinner. You know, say anything that you guys suggest that gets implemented in our company or in our client's company, we're going to give each of that team gift certificates. So what's that do? They feel like you're listening to them. They feel like you're looking to improve. They feel like you're putting things in place that are helping them, and they feel like they're part of a team. They feel like they belong to the company. They feel a lot of times they're like owners. People love to get recognized for things. They love to understand that things are going to change and that you're looking at for improving working conditions, and your clients will love it at the same way. Every time you work with your client to help them grow, you help a hiring manager. You know, a hiring manager, the biggest thing is they got to have these people. They got to be performing at a high level. How do you help them navigate through that? Don't lie and say I can have people tomorrow. Tell them the truth. All right? It's a tight labor market. Unless you can get your guys an increase in salary, show them, you know, salary analytics that show that the marketplace is well above what they're paying. Show them that the demand in the marketplace, and if you don't pay higher, you're not going to get people. Give them the ammo that they got to take to their boss that will build a case that their boss can say, yeah, you know, this makes sense. This is good data. Thanks for that information. Let's go ahead and increase the pay. So giving them information to make them better is key to changing the dynamic of the relationship you have with your client, with your employee, with your candidate.
Fantastic. That's a wrap on the questions that we received.
Okay, well, everyone, again, we thank you very much for taking the time to participate. Feel free to call if you have other questions. I know each company has their individual concerns and needs, but if you can walk away with implementing a couple of these things, I know it will help you accelerate your growth. It will help your company be best positioned to deal with any changes that market conditions bring. So thank you all. Have a great day and a great rest of the week.